Hey everyone, and welcome. Today we're prying open the ultimate toolbox, the one neuropsychologists use to peek inside the most complex, most fascinating thing in the known universe, your brain. Let's dive right in. So think about it. It's our body's command center, for sure. But how do we actually know that? How can we watch a thought happen or see a memory form? I mean, how do we get inside the black box and see the gears turning? Well, that's exactly what we're going to explore. You know, before we had all these shiny, high tech machines, the pioneers of neuropsychology had to be brilliant detectives. They laid the entire groundwork for what we know today using some seriously clever logic and just careful observation. And this was their original hack, the lesion method. The idea is actually pretty straightforward. If someone has an injury or a stroke that damages a very specific part of the brain, and then suddenly they lose a specific ability, let's say the ability to recognize faces, you can make a pretty strong guess that the damaged part of the brain has something to do with recognizing faces. It's how we first started to draw a map of the brain's functions. So, the logic breaks down into these three simple steps. First, you observe that a specific, localized area of the brain is damaged. Step one. Then, you identify a very specific problem the person now has, like they can't speak in coherent sentences anymore. Step two. From that, you can infer that the normal job of that damaged area is, well, to help us speak coherently. It's elegant, powerful detective work, right? But of course, the brain loves to keep things complicated. It's not just a collection of separate parts, it's a massively interconnected network. So damage in one spot can actually cause issues in another, totally different area that it's connected to. Plus, the brain is incredible at reorganizing itself after an injury, a process called neuroplasticity, which can really muddy the waters. That's why we needed to level up our tools. So, to measure those changes in ability we were just talking about, neuropsychologists developed cognitive tests. Think of these as the behavioral rulers and measuring tapes. They're standardized tasks, like remembering a list of words or solving a complex puzzle, that give us solid, objective numbers on how well someone's memory, attention, or decision-making is working. Okay, let's jump forward to the modern era and open up the first tray in our toolbox. Because before you can figure out what something does, you gotta have a good picture of what it actually looks like. Yep, everything starts with a map. You wouldn't try to understand the traffic flow of a city without a map of the streets, right? Same thing with the brain. We need a super high-resolution blueprint of its physical layout. And for that blueprint, we have two main tools. Now, CT scans are super fast and amazing in an emergency. They use X-rays to get a quick snapshot. But the real star of the show for getting a beautiful, detailed map is the MRI. It uses powerful magnets to create these incredibly crisp images that can even tell the difference between different kinds of tissue, like your brain's gray matter and white matter. Now, a structural map is great, but it's a still photo. It doesn't show you the brain in action. To really understand how we think, we need to know not just what the brain looks like, but its timing. We need a stopwatch. And the brain is all about speed. It operates on a millisecond timescale. A thought, a reaction, it all happens literally in the blink of an eye. So we need tools that are fast enough to catch that electrical buzz right as it's happening. We're talking about incredible temporal resolution. And that brings us to electrophysiological methods. These are the speed demons of our toolbox. Their whole job is to capture the tiny electrical or magnetic signals that your neurons give off when they fire. Their superpower is timing, down to the millisecond. The two heavy hitters here are EEG and MEG. You've probably seen EEG caps with all the electrodes. It's a classic tool for things like sleep studies or looking at epilepsy. It tells you when something is happening with unbelievable precision, but it's a little fuzzy on exactly where. MEG, on the other hand, measures magnetic fields, which gives it a slightly better ability to pinpoint the location of all that activity. So that brings us to the final tray in our toolbox. We know the structure, we've got the map. We know the timing, we've got the stopwatch. But now we need the GPS. We need to know exactly which neighborhoods on our brain map are lighting up when we perform a task. This is the big one, right? Where is the action when you're trying to solve a puzzle or you feel a rush of emotion? Which specific circuits in your brain are doing the heavy lifting? For that, we need a functional map of the brain in motion. And the undisputed champion for this job is fMRI. It works on a really cool principle. When a part of your brain gets busy, it calls for more oxygen, just like your muscles do when you exercise. fMRI is basically a super sophisticated blood oxygen tracker. It creates this dynamic map showing which parts of the brain are working the hardest, and it has amazing spatial resolution. It's the workhorse of modern cognitive neuroscience, for sure. And this is where things just get mind-blowing. With fMRI, we can literally watch the brain circuits for decision-making light up. We can see the networks involved when someone is trying to regulate their emotions in real time. We get a direct window into the neural machinery behind our most complex human experiences. So, we've laid out all the different tools on the workbench, but any good craftsperson will tell you the real magic isn't in any single tool. It's about knowing which one to use for the job, or even better, knowing how to use them together. So here's the whole shebang all in one place. You've got your structural tools like MRI, answering the question, what does it look like? Then you've got your electrophysiological tools like EEG for the when is it active question. And finally, your functional tools like fMRI to answer where is it active. As you can see, each one has its own special strength. And that right there is the most important takeaway. No single method is perfect. An MRI gives you a beautiful picture, but it's static. An EEG gives you perfect timing, but fuzzy location. An fMRI gives you great location, but it's a bit slow. It's only by putting their pieces of the puzzle together that we start to see the whole picture. And this really is the core of modern neuropsychology. As one of our sources puts it so well, the goal is a holistic understanding. You combine these different angles to move beyond just mapping the brain to actually start understanding the mind. And that leaves us with a final question for you. As these technologies get even more precise, even more powerful, giving us an even clearer window into ourselves, what would you want to know? What's the first mystery about your own brain, your creativity, your memories, your consciousness that you would want to solve?